IndyCar has had plenty of great drivers, but a lack of real top team space to field them. Drivers like Alex Palou, Pato O'Ward, and Scott McLaughlin are a few of many drivers locked down into their seats, and no matter the case. And although that provides security for him, it puts a lot of drivers into what I like to call the doom cycle. We've seen it time and time again. Drivers impress at a lower team during their early years, and eye a shot at a top team. But it seems to slip away continuously, and they end up cycling between teams like Foyt, Coyne, ECR, and JHR, all in the hopes that the floodgates can open for them at some point. And the driver I see this happening to the most right now is none other than Rinus Veekay. Rinus Veekay's career has gone pretty well, and although he hasn't found his top-tier ride yet, he does have a lot to show for in his years in the series. It started back in 2018, before Veekay actually made his IndyCar debut, where he won the Mazda Pro Championship with Juncos Racing, conveniently the team that he happens to be contracted with right now, and he progressed with them into Indy Lights, where he got second in 2019, behind Oliver Askew. This showed Veekay was not just any junior, and he had actual talent. That talent was recognized, and he ended up getting a seat in IndyCar full-time for 2020 with Ed Carpenter Racing, where he would end up spending quite a bit of time. It didn't end up starting great, with his first race in the series coming with Veekay crashing in practice and not having his car fixed in time for the qualifying, and then in the race, he crashed out on lap 38. The first impressions weren't great, but after all, it isn't about how you start, it's about how you keep going. The very next race at the IMS road course, Veekay managed a P5 in his second ever race weekend. Pretty impressive if you ask me. To add context, he climbed from P18 to do so, and finished 7 positions above his teammate Connor Daly, who started P8. As the season progressed, he continued to impress, with the P6 and P4 at the Gateway doubleheader, which provided a big level of proficiency at ovals, as well as his 4th place start for his inaugural Indy 500. Also, as you could guess, 2020 was a bit of a weird year with the COVID stuff, and that meant multiple races at the same tracks. So back to the IMS road course, where it went for a double header, and back to the top Veekay went. For the first race, known as the Harris GP, Veekay achieved his first ever pole position in the series, and during the race, he translated it into a 3rd place, marking his first ever podium and the first pole the team has had in quite a while. At the end of the season, Veekay had a pretty remarkable year to look back on, a P14 in the driver's standings, and a Rookie of the Year title in his hands, finishing above other rookies like Alex Palou and Oliver Askew, who both also stood on the podium that year. That leads us into 2021, where Veekay was announced to stick with the ECR team for another year. And this one had a lot in store, because in the first 7 races of the season, he finished in the top 10 for 6 of them. This started with a 6th in the opener in Alabama, a pair of 9ths in St. Pete in the second race of the doubleheader in Texas, but what came next was something that no one expected, and shock, it came at the IMS road course. The weekend started off solid with a qualifying position of 7th, while rookie Romain Grosjean was on pole. The next day out, Veekay climbed his way up into leading 33 laps of the race, finishing 5 seconds ahead of Grosjean, who was in second, taking the checkered flag in first place, scoring his first and only race win to date. Genuinely a monumental occurrence, as this was the first ECR win since Joseph Newgarden in 2016, and the only one to date to come on a road course. This was followed by a front row start at the Indy 500 with an 8th place finish, and another podium in the next race, with a 2nd place in Detroit. This was a crazy amount of success, and Veekay caught the attention of many, as he reached as high as 4th in the driver's standings. Unfortunately, Veekay suffered a fractured clavicle in the following weeks in a cycling incident, and was forced to miss the race in Road America, and when he came back, he didn't perform quite at the same level as the start of the season. Nonetheless, he finished 12th in the driver's standings, a solid improvement over his rookie campaign. He had a few other solid years, with 2022 having another podium in Alabama after leading 57 laps, another front row start at the Indy 500, and another P12 at the end of the year. It was a clear-cut performance, doing better than most of the drivers you'd say he was competing with, and the same occurred in 2023. 2023 was characterized as a bit of a tough season for ECR, as they ended up dropping Connor Daly halfway through the year, and the team as a whole struggled quite a bit. And for the first time in his career, Rinus Veekay didn't stand on the podium. But that didn't mean that there weren't strong showings. The single strongest moment came once again in the Indy 500 qualifying, as Veekay started second, just 6/1000ths of a mile per hour off of Alex Palou. The results weren't quite as good, as he finished the race 10th after spinning out of the pit box. The rest of the season was a bit more of a story of consistency, as Veekay found himself not near the front except for a 6th in Portland, but continually bringing the car to top 15 finishes, which led him to a P14 in the driver's standing once again. But it proved his capabilities not only came with home run hitting potential, but also consistent results. Throughout these years, Veekay was not only recognized by the fans, but other teams as well. In 2021, he was said to have gained interest from Penske, but they ended up backing off as he wasn't racing to the same level after his clavicle injury. And in 2022, Veekay gained interest from both Ganassi and McLaren amidst the whole Alex Palou debacle, and both teams saw Veekay as an option if they didn't get Palou, and that situation was pretty long and dragged out. So Veekay ended up re-signing with ECR in hopes of a stable place for the time being. And that did look to be the case as we move forward, that is, until 2024. To begin with, 2024 looked like any other year for Rinus Veekay. He was putting in some top 10s at the start of the season, he qualified 7th for the 500, and in another year that was seen as a bit of a low point for ECR, Rinus Veekay was punching in solid results. He got a top 5 in Iowa, and finished in the top 10 for 5 of the last 8 races of the season, bringing him to a P13 in the standings. And when you thought that would give you job security, it didn't. In Veekay's eyes, he was set to race again at ECR in 2025, and even though no contract was signed, based off of what was reported, ECR told Veekay that he was in the plans for next year. But that abruptly changed when they scooped up Alexander Rossi, and by the time the news had broke, most of the seats of the top teams had already been filled up. This means all that interest he did have from other teams didn't matter because they'd already made plans in the future, thinking Veekay would be at ECR again. The issue had less to do with Rinus Veekay having not proved enough because he really did show what he could do at his time at ECR, and over 5 seasons, he managed to be the most recent race winner for the team since Joseph Newgarden in 2016, and managed to qualify in the top 4 of his first 4 Indy 500s. Also, other than Ed Carpenter himself, Veekay was the longest retained driver in the team's history, so dumping him right at the end wasn't at all expected. The issue at hand wasn't that Veekay wasn't good enough, he just couldn't catch a break. With the winter going by and seats filling up, it was actually a big question mark as to if Veekay would even have a drive in 2025. It looked pretty bleak, and the only rumors surrounding Veekay were for one-off entries for the Indy 500, which is kind of crazy given the output he was capable of. But to his surprise, roughly 2 weeks before the season started, he got the call-up from Dale Coyne Racing. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Dale Coyne was a great place to be, because frankly, it wasn't. 2024 was a financial nightmare for Coyne, and they fielded 9 drivers across the year, and had a highest finishing position of 13th in a race. But at the end of the day, a ride at Coyne was much more prosperous than no ride at all, and especially given Veekay's ability to perform in shaky situations, he had a chance. Starting off the year, Rinus Veekay kicked things off with a fast 12 appearance at the opener in St. Pete, something that Dale Coyne didn't achieve once the year prior. He translated into a P9 finish, which once again, was higher than anything the team had gotten the year before. He continued to outperform expectations and got a P4 at Barber, and 5 more top 10s in the season, including a home run second place in Toronto, marking another podium racked up for Veekay, and the first that Coyne had achieved at a non-oval since Romain Grosjean in 2021. It was a season that showed grit, determination, and ability to keep pushing when you were backed into a corner. And he set himself up for a good landing spot in 2026, right? Wrong. The offseason rolled around again and moves were made. Malukas to Penske and Power to Andretti were the headlining moves, and it filled up the top teams once again. And the only seats that were still open were one at Foyt, one at Hunko's Hollinger, and one at RLL, given that he announced that he wasn't returning to Coyne. Now, it was put out there that Rinus Veekay had to use some of his own money to stay afloat at Coyne, and that led him to where he signed this year at JHR. Now, once again, I'd be lying if I didn't say JHR was a sideways step at best, but at least Veekay wouldn't have to inject his own funds. Given being a few races into the season, Veekay's already started off with a P9 in St. Pete, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did it once again, where he outperforms the team he's in throughout the whole season. The truth is, VK has simply fallen into the harsh reality of racing, that talent and results can get you somewhere, but opportunity doesn't always come. He's still only 25 years old and seems to succeed no matter the conditions he's racing in, so I don't see why a step up can't come in the coming years. What do you think? Do you think we'll finally see VK's big break in 2027, or will he be bouncing around the backmarkers for the time being?